This is a podcast from the Queen City Podcast Network.
Hope. Sometimes we need help finding it. And sometimes that help comes in the form of stories of people who've lost it and found it yet again. That's why we're here. Welcome to Hope with Ramona Holloway. Welcome to Hope. You are going to hear a hopeful message from a man who I understand is finding his father, finally. A man who is well known in the Charlotte community as a journalist, a podcaster, a father, a husband, and an alcoholic. His name is Stuart Watson, and I am honored to call you friend.
And I'm honored that you'll be my friend. I'm honored to be your friend. I call you friend.
I am really excited for you starting your book.
Yes. This will be the third. I wrote a couple and I published them myself. And I find it's always better to have someone else pay you and they worry about the layout and the graphic design and everything else, and also the editing, than for me to hire people to do that kind of thing and do it myself. So this is exciting. It's new.
Wow. Finding my father.
Yes. So I had a father. That's a biological statement. Mm-hmm. Everybody had to have one.
Right.
Sperm donor.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a dad. I was lucky enough to have a dad. So my story is that the first thing my birth mother did was hand me over, sign over custody before I was even born, to the Department of Public Welfare for the state of Georgia. So in midlife, I discovered I never thought of myself as a welfare baby. That's exactly what I was. I never thought of myself as the son of a single mother. It's exactly what I was. Absent father. Who's your daddy? No idea. That's exactly what I was. And the Department of Public Welfare placed me in foster care for 4 months. I never really thought about that. I never thought of myself as a foster kid because I was adopted as a 4-month-old. I was placed in my adopted home with my mom and dad. So that's the nomenclature. That's the naming that I use. Because I had a mom and dad who nurtured me, raised me, supported me, and I was there with them when they died in Concord, North Carolina, in the assisted living center of Alzheimer's. And then I had a mother and father that I never knew. They were strangers. And so at midlife, when I was 10 years sober, I used my investigative reporting skills, and first I figured out who my biological father was. It's usually the other way around.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say, I found my mother.
I did find my mother, but only because he married her.
Oh.
That was the first real shocker.
Yeah.
Is that he married her, and what that meant
after your birth?
Yes. Like, as soon as she said, I'm pregnant, he said, see ya, and he ghosted her. He completely abandoned her.
How did you find that part out?
Through doing the research. And the research, I can tell you, in journalism, it's what are the data sets, what are the documents, and then what's the science, what's the DNA, spit in the tube, send it to Ancestry, and you start to find all kinds of things now. But the way I found this out is the state of Georgia gives you what they call non-identifying information, which every adoptee it's to give you health background, that kind of thing. But they fuzzy it up, so you're not supposed to be able to figure it out. Well, they gave me 8 single-space pages, Ramona.
Wow.
And so I had lots of clues. And the one that lined up was, your father was a lawyer who went to prison in 1959. And so
wow,
I was looking for a white man, probably from Atlanta, so that means Fulton, DeKalb County, about 32 years of age, who went to prison in the state of Georgia for something like forgery, embezzlement, bad check, falsifying checks, stealing from people. And so I went through something called the Book of Convicts.
How long did this take?
Once I figured out to go to the state archives in, I think it was 2003, by then I was fishing in the right pond.
Yeah.
So once I got to that, it only took a matter of months because he married her. He came back a year later and married her.
Wow.
And so that means, long story short, I have full-blood sister who's since deceased. I was able to have a friendship with her. And I have a full-blood brother who is my friend, 20 years after I discovered them.
Amazing.
And the kicker is father died of alcoholism, acute alcoholism, on the cause of death, signed by the doctor on the death certificate. Sealed.
This is a man you never met.
Never met. Never even knew.
So you followed your biological father down the road to alcoholism without ever even knowing his name.
Complete stranger. The man was never even around my mother when she was pregnant with me.
Wow.
So there's no...
Was your mother an alcoholic?
No. But she was a classic codependent.
Ah.
She kept taking this man back. And he was bad news bears. And he went to jail, prison, largest mental institution in the world, Milledgeville, Georgia, 11,000 people under lock and key. And then he died of alcoholism. So jails, institution, death. He was 3 for 3. When it comes to alcohol use disorder, addiction, he was 3 for 3. And I have the documents of that. And
how long have you been sober?
32 years. It'll be 33 if I make it to July.
Wow.
So I got sober in 93.
What do you think is the difference between you and your biological father? Is it the nurturing that you got from your adoptive parents?
There are multiple things. The longer I'm sober, the more I think that alcoholics or addicts are people who have some type of profound brokenness, the same as we all do. It could be sexual assault. It could be gunshot wound. It could be just completely abandoned.
Grief, yeah, a lot of things.
There's something that broke us. But alcoholics, alcohol works. It works right up until it doesn't. It's the way in which we fix this. It's an unhealthy patch. It just keeps it anesthetized.
So what were you putting a patch on?
I think for me, it was that the first thing that happened to me when I came into this incarnation was that my mother let me go. So I was not held. I did not look into her eyes. I was not breastfed. I was not the person who carried me for 9 months was not the person who raised me. And that break, we told ourselves up until very recently, that didn't matter. That didn't matter. They don't remember it. You just tell them whoever was the mom. They don't remember it. It just matters that they have a loving. But something profound happens. We find it in studies with rats, for goodness sake, with monkeys. You'll find that mammals, if you take little baby mouse away from mama mouse, they don't thrive. They don't thrive. And you can say, oh, humans, we can patch that up. That's no big deal. It's not. It's a great big old deal.
So when did you realize that you were indeed an alcoholic?
I think I was probably early 30s.
What was going on?
Well, I was a married man with a minivan, had 2 kids, had a
Were you
job.
working in media already?
I was working at WKRN in Nashville, Tennessee, Night Ritter News, out on Murfreesboro Road. And I would cover the legislature, and I would go out and do on-the-scene reporting. And I was a general assignment reporter. I'd do the Rex fires and the murders. But we also were starting to do, in-depth stuff, corruption, waste, fraud, abuse, government, elected officials. And it was a target-rich environment, more than a little corruption over there in Tennessee, just like everywhere. And so I would tell myself, I can't be an alcoholic because I still have my job. Can't be an alcoholic because I have my marriage. Can't be an alcoholic because I got 2 cars in the driveway.
Yeah.
Can't be an alcoholic because I pay my mortgage.
Yeah, you're not living under a bridge.
Exactly. I'm not locked up.
Right.
Nobody locked me up. I don't have a single DUI.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, every day, drinking. Health impact, relationships, not the dad coming home and like passing out, And I said to my therapist once, wonderful Tammy Bell, I adore that woman. I said, I didn't abandon my kids the way my father abandoned me. And she said, oh, you abandoned them right in the home. You abandoned them right there next to them.
That had to hurt.
It was true. And I was probably 20 years sober when she said that to me.
Wow.
And it forces me to reckon with, I am no better than. I'm not worse than, but I am no better than. I have a disorder, disease if it helps you, disorder, chaotic, disordered relationship with this inert substance, ethyl alcohol, ETOH. I relate to that substance in a different way than about 80 or 90% of the American public.
How did your disease of alcoholism affect your career, or did it?
You don't do your best work when you're hungover. And I went to work with a guy. I knew a guy who, in between stand-ups where you stand in the field with a microphone and you record, I'm so-and-so on the scene. Mm-hmm. First job I was at in Jackson, Mississippi, there was a guy there, they called him Captain Cuddy, drank Cuddy Sark. And in between takes, he would say, hang on a second, turn and retch into the bushes, wipe his mouth, and do the next take. I worked with a guy in Nashville, Tennessee, who would throw up in the trash can in the morning. So that's just guys who drank too much. That's just guys who didn't. I didn't do that. And
you were better than them, so you thought.
And so I'm not like that guy. I'm not.
You didn't have a nickname?
I wasn't Captain Cuddy. I didn't call in sick.
Right.
No. Alcoholics call in sick. I would get up, hands shaking and, feel nauseous and, feel hungover, feel like there was a 10-penny nail driven into my head, head throbbing. And I would shave and put on a jacket and tie and go to work. And alcohol would come out of my pores in that.
Did anyone ever say anything to you about your drinking at work?
My sister, at work? Not really.
What about the family? You were about to say your sister?
My sister had said, you drink too much in college. There were other people who say, tone it down or whatever.
Your wife?
I would go back and forth to that handle of vodka, sitting on the couch watching the ball game or whatever, back and forth. Mm-hmm. And after about the 3rd or 4th trip, she would say, don't you think you've had enough? And I'm like, woman, I don't even know what you're asking. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Because there was no such thing as enough, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I don't. Do I think I've had enough? What's enough? I don't even know what you're asking. What she was saying is, I think you've had enough. But she put it in the form of a question. Mm-hmm. And so I just like, no. And then there was where I really had enough, but I didn't know how to like get off that merry-go-round. I didn't know how. It wasn't stopping. It has its own momentum. And
But, I mean, there are people who would say, there's water, soft drinks, tea, coffee. All you have to do is stop drinking alcohol.
Yeah. Well, I will say that for alcohol, there's a physiological withdrawal. So that's a real.
Did you go to treatment?
I didn't. And I'm a little jealous of people who did. I did not. I went straight to the old, the 12-step, the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who physiologically, they'll have seizures. It is a substance, one of the few substances that there's a reason for what they call medically assisted detox. That means we need to give someone some meds. Whether with opioids, it's like Suboxone, buprenorphine, there's something to taper you down. Otherwise, the body goes into this shock, seizures, and you can actually
Well, what happened
die.
with you?
I was miserable and cranky for some weeks and months.
Uh-huh.
And
so do you think you were harder to get along with when you first stopped drinking than when you were actually drinking?
In some ways, sure. Yeah. Because just like quitting any profound substance, people who've tried to quit smoking or anything, there's that huge irritability that has been tamped down. It's been numbed out.
And it's coming to life once again.
Yes. Exactly.
And getting started is a little, you say,
it's more than a little.
Grumpy.
It's
a lot grumpy.
Yeah.
Agitated?
Yeah. And, from my point of view, I'm doing this good thing.
Right.
And I'm not feeling the love. I'm not feeling the respect for, I'm doing this good thing for my family. And look how noble I am. And everything's like, yeah, you're a damn drunk. And now you're becoming undrunk and you want a medal, you want a trophy for being a decent dad, a decent husband, for like pitching in, changing a diaper, taking the trash out. That's what you're expected to do. That's what you're supposed to do. And so it takes some getting used to. That I'm not going to get my warm fuzzies there. I'm going to get my warm fuzzies from, my home group members, my small team.
Yeah.
My trusted, there's 4 or 5 people that really know what's going on.
Are you a God guy?
Yeah. Although what that means, really averse to he and him right now. I have a dear friend right now.
Says the guy who's writing a book, Finding My Father.
Yeah. And partly because of that, my father was an angry German who was the son of an angry German, who was probably the son of an angry German, etc. He did 3 things very well. He got mad, he got drunk, and he got gone. I do not want the cosmic almighty to do any of those 3 things. And so, you can have your father. You can have Daddy God. You can have Big Daddy. My friend's reading a book right now. It says God is a black woman. And it is so triggering. It is so triggering.
I mean, Pete, we saw that with The Shack.
Yeah.
By Paul Young.
Yeah.
This concept of God as a black woman. And when we talked to the author, he said his God was a black woman because he was raised in a village where his parents were missionaries.
Right.
And the people who showed him that unconditional love that he learned was his God love, that's what they looked like.
I have a stand-up line for little white boys who say God's a black woman. I say, have you met many old black women? It's just, so some of them are mean. So it's like, you don't want.
I might resemble that remark, Stuart. We did work at the same television station for a while.
Different areas.
Yeah.
Didn't know each other then.
Not an angry guy, but you certainly were an agitator.
Yeah, and I think I've mellowed a lot in the 11 years since I got fired.
Why do you think you got fired? Because there's a rumor.
Tell me the rumor
about your firing.
Tell me the rumor.
And
full
disclosure.
The real story's probably
I
better.
asked you if it was okay to ask you this question.
Go ahead. Let me hear it.
The rumor is that after you did a huge investigative piece on the mansion of Stephen Furtick, the pastor of Elevation, the word on the street is that was the end of you. That was the beginning of the end.
No, I think that would be a little simplistic. There were several things that came together at the same time. One, the main thing was TV station got sold. Okay,
and that always means employee shakeup.
Right. And so I had 16 years, half of my 32-year career was at the same TV station.
So you had gotten some raises. You were at the probably at the top of the reporter pay scale.
Oh, I was way over the top. So I was in the low six figures. And so a high-paid reporter would probably be 80, and I'm at like 115, So there's that. There's we need to cut costs. This guy is an outlier. They call it the tall poppy in England, the tall poppy. Your head sticks up, they cut it off. If everybody's at 80 and you're at 115, we just saved all that. And look what we can show but the other thing is, without personalities, et cetera, Stephen Furtick was an advertiser.
He was.
They bought time. He bought time.
Started listening to his services.
Right.
Because Elevation came on right after Saturday Night Live.
Yes. And you don't.
In Charlotte.
Yes.
Every single week.
Yeah. And people have told me for years at WRAL and at WCNC, this is not the hill you want to die on. Do you value your job?
Wait a minute. People warned you not to do it?
Oh, people would say, I had people in the industry, people at WFAA, a great below station in Dallas. They said, there's no percentage in going after these preachers because they have such, strident followers, I mean.
And, and a lot of those followers believe that their guy or girl
I understand
is really tight with God.
And
hey, we're going in.
People never understood that we did the most interesting story about the tax code. If we'd have talked to you in the abstract about the parsonage allowance and the IRS tax code, no one would listen. They would all go to bed. But if you say, this guy who's blowing up everywhere, social media, TV, the music, the Apple Music, everything, this huge business enterprise has bought this guy this $3 million mansion, ever what it was. They built it for him, and they put it in this little secretive LLC so you can't figure it out. It was like, why isn't he proud? If it's the manse, if it's the parish hall, if it's the parsonage for the preacher.
And a lot of churches supply their pastor with a parsonage.
But they usually didn't have any in mind, these $5 and $10 million mansions. And that's when religion got to be big business. And it's political, it's big business, and it's a nonprofit. And so we began to look at what's the relationship.
Why, Stuart? When people are telling you no, why? Did you wake up and say, you know
wired.
what? I'm going to tick off the elevators today. That's what I'm going to do.
I'm just wired that way. I don't know. I don't like phonies. I don't like posers. I don't like people who pretend to be one thing and they're actually about something else. And he is a superb marketer and motivational speaker. Absolutely. Just wonderful.
Absolutely. And that's what it takes to be Ramona, really popular pastor.
I get it. But he insists on being called Pastor Stephen. That's the brand. You're repping the brand, pastor, pastor. He doesn't have time to be a pastor. A pastor, when you're sick in the hospital, he comes and visits you. If you're getting married, he marries you.
Well, you'd be better off if he had a different title, if he called himself bishop.
A preacher. And by the way, coincidentally, what no one remembers at all is that we were doing story after story about United House of Prayer, about the big daddy getting cash money. And we won national awards, national recognition for reporting those stories side by side. Very, very different. United House of Prayer has been around forever and a day, has an extensive history, primarily Black, African-American, has its own sort of tale and is not, like huge on the social media and the 12 screens and all that. You see them in person. Also, I didn't know what a Maybach was until I saw the leader of the United House of Prayer, and who has a different mansion in every town, has mansions up and down the East Coast. So but the story that hacked off the bosses more than anything was when we started talking about how the broadcasters were acting like such babies with the FCC. And I went up and actually covered the FCC. So that I got sideways. And so they had lots and lots and lots of reasons. They had a long list of reasons that they personally disliked me and wanted to take me down, et cetera, et cetera. And so I've had to come to peace with all that. Not to mention which, and you and I have lived through the time when a brand like WBT, or WBTV or WSOC, WLNK, Charlotte Observer, that these brands were huge. Were huge. And now a podcaster can be much bigger than Charlotte Today or, these other brands, the News at 6 or BT Radio. You can certainly have podcasts that are a lot bigger than BT Radio. Right here in little old Charlotte. I mean, the fact that you push it out over the airwaves and you have to report to the FCC, that is a damn liability now. In this market, that's a liability. Whereas,
how so?
Because you got to appease, because Trump can pull your ticket. If you're a podcaster, he could pull your ticket by suing the hell out of you, but he can't pull your ticket by putting you under his thumb at the FCC.
Got it.
You don't have to put a stick
taking your license away.
Our buddy Brian here, he doesn't have to put up a 1,000-foot stick. He doesn't have to pump electricity.
Do you ever think about getting back into the business?
It depends on what you mean by the biz. I think by writing a book, to some extent, I'm in media, sitting here talking to you.
The investigative journalism.
To be honest with you, I am more interested in what is now referred to as solution-oriented journalism, which means that you don't just identify the problem and say, this is a problem, somebody ought to fix it. You talk about what the best practices are and who's out there doing little things. And so, for instance, in Minnesota, the people who are not just covering ICE, shooting people in cold blood on the street, but those who are saying, oh, and by the way, here are these PTA moms, these soccer moms who are boxing up food at Costco and delivering it to their neighbors. So you want to talk about the can-do American spirit?
Mm-hmm.
For the neighbors to self-organize and get on signal chats, and they don't just go out and blow whistles or block traffic. Those neighbors are delivering food. So inasmuch as some immigrants to this country, the backbone of America, we're all immigrants, all came from somewhere, willingly or unwillingly,
Mm-hmm.
crossed the land bridge, crossed the ocean, we did something. Those people will now remember, but it was also the time in which they brought me diapers. They brought us milk, bread, food. They prepared, they made a hot dish.
So how are you personally participating in this type of journalism?
I'm not right now. Yesterday, I went and trained to be a judge for the Mecklenburg County Board of Elections. That's what I've done for 10 years is on election day.
That is. You just haven't written a story about it.
No, I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit after the Republicans did all their shenanigans to try to take away the Supreme Court seat. They tried to take tens, if not hundreds of thousands of voters, negate their votes, take them off the rolls, and make their votes not count because they were serving in the armed forces.
So you're still agitating, Stuart. You are still agitating.
After that, they said, do you want to work the polls? And I said, not if one political party can just essentially wipe this all out and make my little job meaningless. I'm working 14-hour days to get these elections put on, to make sure they work right, and they're going to go to court. And she said, pay attention. She said they're not going to win. And they didn't. They didn't. It took literally a federal case.
What is it going to take to bring back some type of unity? I mean, what is it? What do we need at this point?
For us to realize we are more similar as human beings than we are different.
Mm-hmm. Because the minute someone says Democrat or Republican, already here's a fight. Here's a fight.
I do think that the party labels have outlived their usefulness, and I think the parties are probably part of the problem, and it's why the largest, the most rapidly growing thing by the day in North Carolina and across the country is, in North Carolina, they call it unaffiliated. It means you're neither A nor B.
That's me.
You're neither A nor B. And so what's happening now, and you're seeing just a little nascent effort, and we just got to blow on this ember until it, and that is the Solution Caucus. You're seeing people, it might be Epstein, it might be, you're seeing these two people, instead of going at each other's throats, they're like, yeah, I agree on that. So there's a caucus, there's a coalition caucus. It's small, it's really small, but you don't need that big of a caucus to create change, to solve problems, and don't care who gets the credit.
Your biggest problem. Can we get back to your biggest problem?
Yes. My ego.
You?
Yes, my ego, not my amigo.
How do you keep it from sending you back to that place where you were making the worst decisions of your life?
Well, you and I have talked about this. I refer to it as despair. How do we not despair? And so there's a friend of mine who was on my podcast, Maya Carr. Maya went from Black Baptist to Black Panther to Black Buddhist. She has made quite the journey. And she said, my people do not have the luxury of despair.
Mm.
And she said, we have to have hope in order to go on. And so I think ultimately the answer to avoid despair is inherently spiritual. Because if I wait for a Supreme Court or an election, or if I wait for some human institution, church, state, whatever, business, to fix things, to make it all right, then I'm going to be perpetually in despair. I'm going to be depressed. I'm going to be despondent. I'm going to be, what's the use?
Do you suffer from depression?
There's been some of that. I've gotten some meds in the last 3 years. What that looked like for me was, when you're on the front lines of recovery, you're going to see suicides and overdoses. And you're going to see it over and over. I mean, I went to my last funeral on Sunday,
I'm sorry.
a friend's 25-year-old son, bipolar disorder. That is a gut check. And I am tired of funerals, frankly, untimely funerals. And so what happened was 3 years ago is that I was conflating all these deaths. And it was the guy right next to me in the lifeboat that was suddenly gone. And conflating all those deaths of despair, that's what they're called in the health community, right? Deaths of despair. It really took a toll on me. And I had a healthcare professional, licensed clinical social worker, who was acting as my therapist, Kristen Dickey, and she said, you seem to have the same level of irritation and sleepless nights in July that you do in December. And I wanted to say it was because it was dark, there's not as many light, and and she said, this is constant, whether it's sunny and beautiful outside or whether it's rainy and gray and cold. She said, I think you should see an MD. And I said, okay, I trust your judgment. And I went to see an MD. And I take one little med. It's called Prazosin, and it's for the anxiety, not for the depression. It's so I'll sleep through the night without waking up at 3 a.m. And then when I get up like an old man to go pee at 3 a.m, I'm not going to lie there and think about what's going to happen, what's going to happen with election reform, or, I don't sit there and think about the end of the world.
Do you watch the news now?
Too much. The way I consume it, I subscribe to, and it's going to be smaller and smaller, New York Times, The Guardian, and The Wall Street Journal. And The Wall Street Journal, not a wild-eyed liberal organization, and they're the ones who broke one of the most important stories recently.
Those are the places where you...
Those are 3, and then I listen to too many podcasts.
How do we get to a place where we are looking for sources that try to divorce themselves from opinion? That aren't just murders, accidents, and fires.
Everybody's going to have an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to label it. So, as long as we are human beings and not bots, and even then, bots are programmed by humans, so they're going to reflect human bias. We already understand that. The first thing starts with there's no such thing as complete objectivity. What I owe you is to tell you where I'm coming from. So the people at Elevation, they used to say, where do you go to church? And I would tell them, I don't go to churches, I go to church basements. I go
What's that
to
mean?
12-step meetings.
Oh, okay.
The 12-step meeting is not upstairs in the sanctuary with the big cross and the sermon. 12-step meeting's down in the basement. Myers Park Methodist. We're down in the basement with the unfinished gray cement floors and the chain link fence, and we're down in the basement. Not as pretty a lighting, we're in the basement. But there's one heck of a lot of Christianity and Christian kindness and love, peace that is taking place in those basements. And what they want to do is peg me and say, oh, because you're a Catholic, you hate Pastor
Were you
Stephen.
raised Catholic?
Oh, no. I was raised Presbyterian.
Okay.
Yeah. And now what I would say, I've been going, as I did after September 11th, back to the Quakers, the unstructured. There's no sermon, there's no choir, there's no reading, there's silence, and a direct encounter with spirit. So they appeal to me. The Quakers appeal to me, not to mention the whole peaceful thing. The Quakers do not block the streets and blow whistles. They have a long, long tradition of showing up and silently watching, like bearing witness.
How do you keep hope alive in your life?
Talk to people like Ramona.
Oh, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I have to cultivate people who, on days when I'm down, they have to remind me. It's still, I had to remind myself before dawn, getting out of the car near the 12-step club, the 12-step service, 709 East Boulevard. I have to get out of the car and say, oh, wow, it's 60 degrees out. This is pleasant. And I heard this cardinal, this red bird, what cheer.
Mm-hmm.
This cardinal was going at it again and again and again. And I have to force myself to notice those things. Otherwise, I'll live in the world of incessant, as
you'll live in the noise.
My kids' generation keeps saying, we're in a post-capitalist hellscape, man. And I said, well, in my post-capitalist hellscape, pitchers and catchers are reporting in Florida, and forsythia is going to be blooming soon. So let's just, the red bird is calling in the distance in this particular. So let's level set. Let's level set what's actually going on here. Let's not live in that, staring into the phone, staring into the screen. Let's leave the phone in the car, take a walk around the pond over in Freedom Park, notice the dogs.
Oh, definitely the dogs.
Yes, definitely. The dogs are not living in a hellscape. I saw a whippet yesterday in Latta Park. A friendly whippet, wasn't too shy. Came up, wag, wag, wag. Saw these 4 little girls going after this little ginger, tabby cat. Cat's tail was flicking. I'm like, I'm not so sure it's a good idea that this does not mean what you think it means. She's not happy to see you. It's not the same as a dog, Let's leave the tabby alone, And so you see these, your fellow humans interact with your fellow humans. I was
connection is everything.
Yeah, I was at the Night Swim Coffee House on Brevard the other day at like 7 a.m. It's dark, and there are these 4 young dudes, white dudes, sitting on one side of the table, and they're all like that. And I look at them, and there's this like 2 generations worth of. They're younger than my son, and I said, "This looks like trouble right here." I said, "There's some
that is such a dad move."
I said, and they're like, "Yeah, right. Yeah, there is, And my kids, if they were there, were like, "Leave those men alone. Leave those men alone, Dad. Don't talk to those people."
You are that dad.
I am the dad. I am the paterfamilias.
Stuart,
Yeah.
I have to thank you so much for
thank
this
you.
conversation. When can we expect the book?
It's due out before the end of the year. First draft is due at the end of March. Finding My Father. Stuart Watson, Stuart.
And this 12-step help that you talk about.
Yes. I don't speak for any one organization like Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Alcoholics. I don't speak for any one. However, 12-Step Service LLC at 709 East Boulevard is a place that houses all these various groups and the family groups, the parents, like Al-Anon, Nar-Anon, these family groups that lean on each other. We host them as well. And I'm a big believer in what they do.
And you got some support from Home Depot?
That's right. The Home Depot Foundation came and they put new paint and flooring in our room. And I think we got somebody else in the Springs going to put in a brand new parking lot in the back. And so it is so nice to see people step up for this anonymous organization. Nobody even knew we were there. They never even knew we were there. I've been there 60 years plus. And so it's really neat. Charlotte has a huge heart. I'm sure you found that.
I have.
Yeah. There's a huge sense of the Good Samaritan, the reaching out to our neighbors.
And your work with that LLC is your contribution to solutions-oriented life.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Stuart.
God bless you.
Thanks for sharing hope with me. If you'd like to connect, go to RamonaHolloway.com. You can find me on my socials. Once again, Ramona Holloway. And if you'd like to support this podcast, guess what? RamonaHolloway.com.
QueenCityPodcastNetwork.com.